Last week, I interviewed Jackie from Ruth and Ruby, and Jackie not only has a YouTube channel where she creates amazing DIYs, she has a storefront and an online store that she runs. How does she juggle all the things? Well, go and give that one a listen. Now, in this week's episode, I am going to be talking about burnout and how I recently felt the beginning stages of this and what I'm doing personally to overcome it from happening. This is a huge issue for so many small business owners who are juggling far too many balls. And if you feel like you're on the verge of burnout, join me in this episode as I dive into what burnout is and how I am overcoming it.
Welcome to the Rescued and Upcycled podcast with weekly inspiration, tips on trying new techniques, and overall real talk about owning your own DIY business. Now here's your host, Sonnet Ullenbrock.
Welcome back to Rescued and Upcycled. I'm your host, Sonnet Ullenbrock. I want to thank you guys for joining me on my podcast. This is episode 32. If you guys are new here, I do interview different creatives or small business owners every other week. And I love talking about all things business. And I'm hoping that I have been inspiring you along with my guest host. Now, this week, I am talking about burnout, and you may think this will never happen to you. Well, folks, I recently felt the beginning stages of burnout. And honestly, I never in a million years thought this would ever happen to me either. What is burnout? Now, I went and I pulled the definition out of like the dictionary. It is the state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive and prolonged stress. It occurs when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. So, just taking a little step back about when this all started for me. So, in May of 2023, I took a leap of faith and I left my corporate job to do this, what I love, full time. And many of you actually have said, "What? You had a full time job along with running your business?" So many people did not know that on the back end, I was still going to a full time corporate job every single day, plus running my business from my home. So, yes, I was able to juggle that the entire time. I felt like I didn't have really any stress in my life, but decided I wanted to leave that corporate job because I wanted to move my small business forward even further. My corporate job was really a crutch, you guys, and it just really held me back. And in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, what if I fail? I can't leave my full-time job. Like, what if I'm going to fail? And this like really set the stage of how I just didn't want to fail. So it just was such a stressor to me that I put a bunch of stress on myself to work harder, and I wanted to accomplish the most I could each and every day. So if I was going to leave that full-time job and do this job as my full-time job, I was gonna give her my all, which I was before giving her my all, but I just felt like I had to work harder. And I never wanted to not ever do this. Like, this is my love, you guys. I love DIYing, I love teaching, I love inspiring my viewers. And so for the last year, I have been grinding day in and day out to really build my DIY empire. And in the back of my mind, I just kept telling myself, this is short term. I just never felt like it was going to be long term. I just wanted to make sure that I was successful and that I wasn't going to be a failure. So I always was, you guys, I was grinding. Okay. And I felt like sometime I'm going to feel like I have the stability within my small business. And honestly, I think I felt it a while ago, but I was so ingrained and I was so like caught up in all the things that I do that I never slowed down. I just kept adding more and pushing myself harder and further. And I had never considered that I would ever be at the level of burnout. Never. It just never crossed my mind. Like, people have talked about burnout, and I feel like I handle stress very well. And I felt like I was doing such a good job with managing, time management, and just all those things. So, it was this year I met Jamie Ray Vintage back, I believe it was in April, when I went to Debbie Beard's paint inlay party. And Jamie and Debbie are just the best, and we just had like a great time. And then Jamie Ray like pulled me aside and she said, I'm really concerned, that you're going to be headed into burnout. And I just was like, what? No, she's like, "You're just doing so much. Like, you have your booths and you're doing this and you're doing that." And, I took a step back and I'm like, I am doing a lot of stuff, but I felt good. I mean, I really felt like it was never gonna happen to me. And I just kinda, like, laughed it off a bit, and I'm like, "Yeah, it's not gonna happen. Don't worry. I'm good." And I'm like, "I appreciate, like, your concern, but this is why I'm doing this, and this is why I'm doing that." And, it was sweet, like, that she had brought it to my forefront, and I'm glad she did, because I think that made me see when it all came crashing down recently. So, I always have had like a plan. Things are always seemingly under control. And well, September hit, and which led into October. And then these 2 months, honestly, you guys, created such mass chaos for me. So much so I honestly felt like I was headed down the road of a burnout. It was just the perfect storm these last couple months, and it was like my breaking point. I will be totally honest. So, it started at the end of August, and I ended up getting really sick after being in Chicago for a concert. I rarely get sick. I'm very, very healthy. Like, my kids will get sick, my husband will be sick, I'll be taking care of them. I always feel like I have a really great immune system. So, when we went to Chicago, and we're this with this big group of people at this concert. We're driving home on Sunday and they're all feeling great. And then I start feeling ill. And I'm like, it like hit me like a ton of bricks. And I became extremely exhausted. I was just down and out. I barely could function. And this lasted for approximately 2 full weeks. So it was like, I think it was like just like the ending of August and then into September. So a full 2 weeks of just being completely ill, and I fell very behind, and the very first weekend of October was going to be my creative, retreat and market, and I had so much stuff to wrap up. On top of that, I actually had for the last 13 years, been trying to go on, a bear hunt. And for some of you, you may not understand, but I'm from Wisconsin, and you put in points. And long story short, I have never been able to hunt for a bear and get one. So, long story short, then I had that on top of everything else. And it was just, I was trying to do that, being sick, and I was trying to wrap up everything I needed to do for my creative retreat and market. And then I started feeling better. So, like, the second week of September, I was feeling a little bit better. And then all of a sudden it hit me again. And I was down and out for like another week. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. I cannot be sick. I have got to get better, you guys. And so this alone was just a big undertaking. The creative market and retreat. I was just having to wrap up like all the projects and like finalizing the vendors, and it just was so much. And then on top of that, you guys, the IOD holiday release was going to be happening directly in the middle of my retreat. So, if anybody doesn't know about the IOD holiday release, it is the biggest release of the season. And why it's so big is that it is a limited edition. And, I had placed my order and people were going to start ordering, hopefully. And I was going to have to start shipping that. And then May 2nd is when I ship out my makers boxes. So, on top of like prepping for all of these things, I also had to ship 400 makers boxes. So, needless to say, I couldn't figure out if I was coming or going, you guys. I realized I was in way over my head. I just had to plow through though. So, what was the most important thing? And I would just take it day by day. Like the first, like May 2nd, I had to, like May 1st, I went home and I had to load up my truck. May 2nd, I had to ship everything. And then on all those days, I was setting up, I had my own vendor booth for the market. And so I had to set that all up, plus set up an entire retreat. So I am trying to, take care of all of these things. And then the retreat and the market started, and there were things to do each and every single day. And by the end of the retreat, you guys, I was in completely like a zombie like state. I was so completely wore out. And this is when I truly felt I guess I first felt my first glimpse of a burnout. I was just like, "Oh my gosh, Sonnet, what were you thinking?" I guess the first thing I did after like this feeling and the I guess recognizing that I was feeling this way. And I think I recognized it and realized it was burnout because I thought back to my conversations with Jamie Ray Vintage. And that was like, it was just eye opening. I realized I had to do something. And so after the retreat, I just had to take a step back from all things like people, my viewers, my listeners. I had a lot of my podcasts pre-taped, which was a great thing, but my videos I didn't, because had been so sick. I didn't pre-tape a lot of stuff. So what I did is I just completely took a step back from all my social media platforms. This was so hard for me to do, since I show up every single day for my viewers, and I just knew that I couldn't. I had to completely walk away for just a couple weeks, which seems completely crazy for some people. They're like, "What? You walked away from just everything?" And I once in a while would like make a post just to say like, "Hey, I'm still alive." But I was not going to do any of my lives. I didn't do a YouTube video. I never even walked into my studio. I was like, "No, I'm feeling so completely unorganized and chaotic. I just need to regroup." So I slept a lot. I then started organizing everything. So after the retreat, everything was in totes, boxes, everything was in my kitchen. The entire IOD release was in my kitchen. And just looking at that just was overwhelming too, because I'm like, okay, I need to regroup here. I had another IOD reshipment come. I had to get that into inventory. There were just so many things. And I'm like, I just need to slow down and like regroup. And so that is exactly what I did, you guys. But then I really had to deal with how I was feeling. Like if this was truly the verge of a burnout, I don't want that to happen. I can't allow it to happen. What am I going to do to prevent this? What do I need to change so that I can continue to do what I love? And, I just realized that I had to deal with how I was feeling, because everything, just came crashing together in this perfect storm, which really, I guess that was when like I said, I recognized that there was an issue. So I just really needed to figure out how I was going to almost like reverse how I was feeling. Like, how was I going to reduce my stress moving forward? I'm going to, like, how am I going to take that because I can't go back to doing what I was doing. Um, Even though will I ever have all those perfect things hit me at one time? Well, I hope not. There was a lot that I had all thrown at me at one time, and so maybe that it was God's way of saying like you need to slow down. You need to take a step back and realize what is important. Yes, your business is important, but so is your family, so is your health, and you need to reduce your stress moving forward. So, one thing I'm going to do is I am working on getting a team to help me. I am going to be diligently looking for, 1 to 2 people to work with me every single day. At least once a week. Like I am going to get help. I need help because I can't do it all. I think I can. I feel like I try not to be a control freak, but I feel like I can do all the things. Like I can do that. Oh, it's going to take a little bit. I can do that. Well, I can't. I can't do all the things. So, I am definitely going to work on number 1, starting to find team members or employees to help me. And I've started doing this already, but now realize that there are other areas that I could actually get help in as well. I also have decided for my next retreat, I am going to create a team for the retreat as well. So this is like, I don't want ever to feel the way I did during the retreat because I feel like I missed out on a lot of, social time with the attendees. I didn't get to, there were so many relationships being made and I felt like I missed out on that piece of it because I was making sure that everything was running smoothly. And being a team of 1 to do that, I'm not capable of cutting myself into 4. So next time around, I'm going to have a team of 4. So at least a team of 2 to 3. I mean, if I can't find 4, but I would love to have more of a mini team to help me and that I'm hoping that I can find a good team to help me with like my daily tasks as well, because that's where I'm at. I realized also that I need to build resilience to stress by really truly taking care of my physical and my emotional health, you guys. Number 1, I need to get back to the gym. Like I would go to the gym every single morning and I haven't been there in weeks. I mean, I feel guilty. Plus, I want to be healthy. And I'm like, I felt like I've been a slacker, but I've been so exhausted and I was so sick that I wasn't at the gym. So maybe it's been more than a few weeks, maybe months. I don't know. And my friend just said the trainer wants to know if you're coming back. I'm coming back. So and the other thing too is I need to start practicing mindfulness. And after speaking with a good friend of mine, Jane from Jane Belante Art, she had just such good words of wisdom for me. And just talking it out with her just gave me a different perspective. And I realized that I just need to slow down and be more mindful. And that's what I definitely am going to do. So just take better care of me. Because if I'm not taking good care of myself, I'm not going to be able to be there for my viewers and listeners. Some other changes I'll be making is I am going to be clocking in and out of work. Yes, I can honestly say I never thought I would say that. I currently have a hard time separating home from work because I run my business from my home, you guys. And I'm going to be moving back into my studio. So over the winter, like it was like a winter ago, I moved everything into a room in my home and my studio that I built especially for my business. I actually kind of like shut it. It's not like it's shut down. I still use it, but I don't use it for the purposes that I made it for. So number 1, I'm moving back into my studio. And that is where I'll be doing much of my videotaping, my work. I do a lot of that right here in my home. And it was now more of a convenience of, I know it sounds silly, you guys. Oh, I'm just walking into the other room versus, okay, I got to go out and then it's not even that far into the backyard. But it's almost like I have to walk it out there. And then if I'd forget something. So everything was very conveniently located here. But we're going to change things. So that is like number one. Moving back into the studio. This room is going to be for my lives, for my podcast, and it's going to be my shipping area. So I am going to be moving all my DIY products back to my studio where I will be doing all my videotaping. And the last thing I plan on doing is creating a separate space for my maker's box packing and shipping. This has been very difficult. I knew like a couple months ago, like the first month that okay, I knew from the beginning it was just not going to be feasible. We live in a very small home, and every month, right before I ship everything, I pack all the boxes. And I have 400 boxes in my living room, which is a huge chunk of our living room. It's like we live in a smaller home, it's very cozy. And that and the once we took every time I would ship them, I'd be like, "Oh, thank God they're out of here." So what I have decided is we are going to create a separate space. I talked to my husband. I did some brainstorming with my mother. So even before I was on the brink of a burnout, my mother and I had been talking about creating a separate space for this. So it will be that will be something, and I'll bring you guys along for it because it has to be done. It cannot overtake our living room, our kitchen. It cannot overtake our lives any longer. And as I grow, and I anticipate it will continue to grow, it's just going to be bigger and take up more space. So thank goodness it's the end of summer and I have the next few weekends to really work on creating the solution. So that is going to be my number one top priority is creating this space for the maker's box. So I think once I get that done, that alone will make me feel so much better, you guys. You have no idea, like when you walk into my living room and you see 400 boxes sitting there, it's crazy. Or like even in our kitchen where I have when we pack the boxes, all the material like in a it's like oh, it's so yeah, it's a lot. Okay, is all I have to say. But this is going to really allow me to close the door and clock out. And I really want to be present when I'm with my family. Will I completely stop thinking about business? Absolutely not. But it will help me really separate the two. So the weekends are really going to be my time. No checking email or answering calls. And, I do have that habit of definitely, I'm going to just quick check the email, see if there's anything I need to do. Or I can just quick call this person back. I realized I'm gonna have to deal with all of that on Mondays. Monday all of that can wait till Monday. So not that I don't love you guys, but I do love my family, my health, and my friends as well. So that alone, is kind of like what I am doing to prevent this from happening moving forward. So now I want you guys to ask yourself, are you on the road to a burnout? Do you ever feel like you're so overloaded? Just some signs of a burnout. Now I didn't feel all these things. So I kind of was doing a little research like how do you know if you're in a burnout? And so, some signs that you might be on the way to a burnout would be like every day is a bad day. I had never felt like every day was a bad day, but some people may. I mean, maybe you're like dreading the day where you're caring about your work or home life seems just like a total waste of energy. Like I've never felt like that either. you're exhausted all the time. At the end, I was feeling exhausted, like completely exhausted. The majority of your day is spent on tasks you either find mind numbingly dull or overwhelming. And I think that too, you guys, it was like when I was at the end, I had so many things going on. I was just in overwhelm. And that's what made me almost like into that zombie like stage. And you feel like nothing you do makes a difference or is appreciated. Now, those are like possible signs. Some physical signs or symptoms of a burnout is you're feeling tired, drained a lot of the time, your lowered immunity system, you're frequently ill. So was that a sign that I was why I got ill? I don't know. Frequent headaches, muscle pain, change of appetite, or your sleep habits. So those are could be some signs. Your emotional signs is, you feel like you have a sense of failure or self doubt. You're feeling helpless or defeated. You feel alone in the world. You have a loss of motivation. You start, getting a negative outlook, decreased satisfaction, or sense of accomplishment. Those are signs. Like I looked it up, and that's what it said. Did I feel all those things? Absolutely not. I think that that is why I was just at the very brink of it, and like I said, I just felt like it all came crashing to that perfect medium. And I just realized at that point I needed to make some changes to prevent like a complete downward spiral into a burnout. And, this is my dream, you guys, and it's what I love to do. I want to show up for you guys every single day and inspire you, teach you all about all things DIY and business. And I want you all to realize that burnout is a real thing and it can happen to anyone. Just be aware of the signs and definitely get the help before you're at complete burnout. Um, Slow down. You can't do it all. And I've realized that. So I hope today has given you just a little insight. I always like to talk about, some of my own things that have happened to me and kind of at least show you that we're all human and, things happen and we can't do it all. It's okay to ask for help. That has been something that I have learned throughout this is that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to get help. You can't do it all yourself. And, um, this past during the retreat and the market, I realized like who my true friends were, who had my back, who was checking in on me, concerned, asking, how I was doing, how my dog was doing. Cause over all this, my Lily is not doing good. Um, there's just been a lot. So it's just good to know and you really see, who your true friends are and who has your back. And it's amazing like when you find things out like that. So I just appreciate every single person that helped out with the retreat, with the market. It turned out amazing, you guys. So it was the best thing ever. I had this vision and it all came to fruition. I mean, I wanted to inspire people and just show them that they are able to be absolutely creative and inspire them to do whatever they, possibly want to do. And that's what they walked away feeling completely inspired. So I hope you've enjoyed today's episode. So in this next week's episode, you guys, I am going to be interviewing Lori from Laura Bell Finds and Designs. She is not only the store manager of Water Street Vintage, but she owns and operates her own vendor booth business within Water Street. So I talk about Water Street a lot because I have a vendor booth there as well. And so does Lori. And she just has so much insight to offer about running and owning a vendor booth. And I'm just so excited to showcase just another side of booth life. So you guys do not want to miss out on next week's episode. Now, if you guys are listening to me on any of the podcast platforms, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you don't miss out on an episode. And if you are watching me on YouTube, definitely give me a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments what you guys are thinking and let others know about this podcast. So definitely share it. And then don't forget, subscribe to my podcast. You guys can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, on all the social media platforms at Sonnet's Garden Blooms, where I always post a lot more content for you guys. Now, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and we will see you guys next week. Bye.